Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We're just 5 short days away from the election. Last night on television, one of the comedy hosts, Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, so you can make quotation marks. Go ahead. Jimmy Kimmel said, it's time to vote. You got to vote. Unless you're voting for Trump, then you can vote after Election Day. Take a listen to old Jimmy.
I don't know if you guys know about this, but we have an election coming up on... I feel pretty relaxed about it. I've really been enjoying the week. It's in times like these, it's important to remember that cannabis is legal in our state. But you have to vote. If you can vote early, vote early. If you can't vote early, vote on time. If you want to vote for Trump, vote late, vote very late. Do your voting on Thursday or maybe Friday. This will be my third time voting against Donald Trump.
Now, if you're like me, you instantly thought, wait a second. Haven't jokes like that been told before and then subsequently criminally charged and convicted and sentenced? Well, you'd be right about that. In fact, my next guest experienced that very thing. Douglass Mackey joins us now. He's the author of the substack Douglass Mackey's newsletter. He was arrested by the Biden-Harris DOJ for cracking jokes way back in 2016 about Hillary Clinton. Douglass, good to have you with us, sir.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Okay, so did you? By now, you've probably watched that Jimmy Kimmel clip a dozen times. What did you think when you heard Jimmy make that joke?
Well, it puts everything into context. It's unbelievable. People have been making jokes like this probably since the country even existed. And the very first time that the DOJ came to prosecute someone was me, and it was 7 days after Joe Biden was inaugurated. I got a knock on the door at 7 a.m. and an FBI agent's barging down my door. So I just have to wonder, are they going to be doing the same thing to Jimmy Kimmel now? Everyone making a joke is a fair game for the weaponized DOJ?
In other words, you made a meme back in 2016 joking that you could text your vote in to support Hillary Clinton, which, of course, nobody with two brain cells to rub together would actually believe that. Then they didn't charge you for the duration of the entire Trump administration. The Justice Department never hassled you. It was only right as Joe Biden became president that they decided to come after you?
Yeah, exactly. Because the FBI investigated this case. Career prosecutors tried to bring the case, but the Trump DOJ wouldn't let them. So they just left it there on the shelf for once Joe Biden got inaugurated. 2 days after his inaugurated, they got an arrest warrant.
They got an arrest warrant, and they came after you. Obviously your story is really important, but I don't know how rough it is for you to relive all of it. But just as you go through this, you ended up going to trial. They found you guilty, and then they put you in jail. How long were you in jail?
Oh, good question. So I was fortunate that the appeals court recognized the strength of my appeal, and they gave me a bond. So fortunately, I have not spent a day in prison yet. We are appealing this case. We're up on appeal, and I think we're going to win the appeal, to be honest with you.
I see. That's my mistake, because I know it was October of last year that you were sentenced to 7 months, and then it was December of last year that you had a motion for release pending appeal that was granted.
Yeah, exactly. The district court rejected our motion for release, but the appeals court saw the merits of the appeal and granted it.
Okay. So you're still actively battling this?
Yeah, we're actively battling it right now. We need all the help we can get at memedefensefund.com. We had some really excellent appeal arguments. We had some excellent amicus briefs, including from Professor Eugene Volokh, First Amendment expert. And this case was argued in April, so we're waiting for the decision to come down any day now.
When you hear a guy like Jimmy Kimmel, who obviously doesn't share your politics, make a joke that's exactly like the one that you made about Hillary Clinton, and then what would you like to see happen to Jimmy Kimmel? Is there any part of you that says, boy, I really wish the Justice Department would level charges against that guy just to prove your point?
Well, yeah, in a way. Like, first of all, I would say this. I don't want to live in a country where they're going after a bunch of people for jokes, and I'd like to see us win the appeal. But if that's a standard that they want to live under, then not only did they, charge me criminally, but just an investigation itself is extremely invasive. You wouldn't believe what they subpoenaed for their investigation. That you'd think had nothing to do with the case. All of my communications, all of my financial records, lease records, employment records, pay stubs, unbelievable. So, well, if that's a standard, then they should investigate Jimmy Kimmel to try to sort of decipher his intent. If that's the job of the DOJ,
Yeah.
we're going to dig through people's lives to find out if they were joking or if they were serious, then I guess that's what should happen to him.
So, Douglass Mackey, what other impacts have there been on your life? Obviously, getting sentenced to prison is no small thing. But you just mentioned that you've got a website for your legal defense, memesdefensefund.com, which means that they're obviously sapping you of your money, the ability to just pay for stuff. What other impact has it had on, say, your career, on your family?
Yeah, so it's very difficult for my family. I mean, personally, I'm self-employed. I'm fortunate in that respect, but this, it totally drains all my finances. Yeah, absolutely. And psychologically, everything else, it's something that, hopefully it's going to make me stronger rather than break me. But it's a very difficult process. And like I said, it drags on and on and on. I was arrested almost 4 years ago at this point, and I was tried a year and a half ago. It just goes on and on. And if we have to go to the Supreme Court, it's just going to keep going on and on and on. So yeah, it's extremely draining. Fortunately, my family has rallied around me for the most part. But yeah, we need help. Meme Defense Fund, MEME defensefund.com.
Meme Defense Fund. Okay. So, Douglass Mackey, when you hear people like Kamala Harris say that President Trump is going to weaponize the federal government against American citizens, that American citizens are going to be targeted by the feds, what do you think when you hear her say that?
Well, this is an administration that's locking up pro-lifers for 4-year prison sentences for protesting outside abortion clinics under a novel application of the exact same law they came after me for. And the same exact law that I was convicted under, they charged Donald Trump. So this is becoming a catch-all law. That it's a complete farce. That's exactly what her administration has been doing. And I actually believe that it will get much worse under Kamala Harris because I think that she believes in this stuff. Joe Biden, who knows if he was even awake, and he really know what was going on the last 4 years. She's a true believer. She's coming out of San Francisco, and I think she's going to make it way worse. She wanted to she was the one who had the idea to ban Trump from Twitter, and that's what they did, and they ended up doing. So she has no appreciation for American liberties.
Yeah, I also worry, Douglass Mackey, that Kamala Harris fancies herself a talented prosecutor, although there is no actual historic evidence to support that. But I think that she may even try and get more involved in sicking the Justice Department on political opponents than even Joe Biden did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be open season. They're going to go after, under the pretext of misinformation, disinformation, they are going to try to undermine and subvert the First Amendment as much as they possibly can. And, we're just seeing the beginning of it.
Do you have any desire for, I imagine you do, for President Trump, should he return to the White House, to pardon you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I would like to win the case in the court system first. But, yeah, absolutely. I mean, at a certain point, it just keeps dragging on and on. Hopefully we get a favorable decision in the circuit court. But absolutely, I think it was an injustice and it should be rectified.
It really should be, because it's a total threat to the First Amendment. Again, for you to make a joke about Hillary Clinton and then to be charged by the Biden-Harris administration, and they're trying to throw you in prison right now as we speak. It's as clear as day what side is actually weaponizing the system against political opponents.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Douglass Mackey, thank you very much. So you can find him on the Substack, Douglass Mackey's newsletter, and also you can support him at memedefensefund.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great night.
That's Douglass Mackey. Let's see. I've got Anton calling in from Maryland now on line 2. Anton, good afternoon, sir. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show. On line 2. Anton?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Anton. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, like I told the screener, with all mentioning about the garbage people and garbage this.
Yeah.
I bought my grandson a toy garbage truck because I said, hold up, let me get this.
That's cool. I like that. So have you given the garbage truck to your grandson yet, or are you waiting?
No, I just ordered it just now on not so long ago on Amazon. my daughter gonna pitch a fit because other than my son, my two daughters, my wife, they diehard Democrats. You can't convince them of nothing.
Why not? Why can't you convince them? Why can't you change their mind? What's going on?
Hey, they go back. You notice Democrats, but you talk to them about a specific subject, they'll go all the way back to Reagan. They ain't got the brains are locked in the past. Way in the past. They go all the way back to Reagan, which they spew lies because they listen to MSN, CNN, Google, hello, all that stuff. They are locked, and I just pray the Lord that they can get unlocked because it's some shameful stuff going there.
But Anton, Anton, I don't know you, but I'm learning a lot about you really quickly. And what I can tell from what you're saying is, so you just bought a truck that you're giving, a garbage truck, a toy garbage truck. You're giving it to your grandson. So you haven't actually stopped trying to convince your family that they're wrong.
No, I can't do that. I love them. I can't do that. But hey. It's hard love.
Yeah, I love it.
It's love, man.
Anton, thank you. It's a smart idea. I appreciate it. Thanks, Anton. Good move. Yeah, I got a text. I got a text from one of my uncles. I got a lot of uncles texting me. He has a suggestion. He says, tonight it's Halloween, as you may know. When trick-or-treaters come to your front door, ask them who they're voting for, or their parents. Who are your parents voting for? And if they say Trump, give them more candy. That's great. I love that. Yeah, I wonder how many people are going to use the trick-or-treating exchanges to discuss the election. Probably not a lot. It's not a typical thing in America, but I don't know. Maybe there's a good way to do it. You can save the country, hand out a little candy at the same time. Hand out candy while you still can, while the economy still works. All right, let's take Ed, who's calling in from Hagerstown, Maryland, now on line one. Ed, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Brother Vance, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great, Ed. What's happening?
Well, I thought you might be interested. You started off the show talking about getting people out to the polls, which should be everybody's goal right now. Get those ballots. Get the people. So I've done many things over the years to kind of subvert. It's not time to talk about all the different things I've done, but I used to be a Teamsters shop steward. I left that job in 2007, and I said, I'm going to wear my old Teamsters satin jacket, which is what you see all the guys who are, whenever we'd walk into a meeting, you'd wear that. There's a name they call it. It's got a big giant horse on the back, and then, of course, the logo on the front.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to wear that. I'm going to wear that to early voting. And I did down in Fredericksburg where I live. And it's the craziest thing. First, I was impressed at how many people were actually there on the Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Steady line of people coming in and out.
Yeah.
I'm over with the Republican side, and one of the guys running it is a retired Teamster himself, the same union. And I said, is it cool if I stand here for a while? I said, please do. And it was the other side, the blue tent, might as well have been a Zoom call that nobody showed up for. We had one person that had blue paraphernalia in their hand, and they saw us over there, and they came and they talked to us, and it was just an amazing thing. The truth about elections, Dan Bongino says this all the time, it's all about pictures and sound bites. And I was impressed with the feedback that I've gotten, because I posted it on my social media, and people from, I know people from all over the United States, from different, being a musician, being a driver, whatever, know, and this is not going to go well for the Democrats. I do not believe.
I hope you're right. You know, what you're talking about, though, is a very real phenomenon among Teamsters members. The union, you'll know, but I just want to remind people, just conducted a survey in September, and they found that Teamsters members support Donald Trump over Kamala Harris 2-1. About 60% of all the members in their online polling said they support Trump. And they did a separate phone survey as well. 58% of the membership said they support Trump. That's over 31% who support Kamala. So massive support in the Teamsters, Ed. Why do you think that is?
Well, why do I think that is? I know time is around the church and I need to go to news here pretty quick, but I will tell you this. I travel all over the Commonwealth of Virginia for my job, also in Maryland and also in Pennsylvania. We have very good friends in Pennsylvania. One of them was a former Teamster educator. He is now supporting Trump. And it's because people are sick of this stuff that they are. I can't use the word I want to, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Look at this guy. He understands what you can say on the air. He knows the clock. He's like, hey, we're up against it. I just got to get this out. And he's a great guy. Ed, you're a great American. Thank you very much for calling in.
Semper Fi.
Thank you very much. He's a Marine, too. Did he say Semper Fi? Is that what he said? That's not...
Well, no. Semper Fi for all my Marine friends.
I like that. All right. Shout out to the Marines. Thank you, Ed. All right. Hold on. Speaking of Marines, J.D. Vance just did an interview with Joe Rogan, and we've got the highlights. That's ahead. All right, good afternoon to you. It's 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join me today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. I want to get to J.D. Vance and his conversation with Joe Rogan in just a moment, but before I get there, I did mention earlier that I want to address Kamala Harris's latest deceit, her wild gesticulations that she's making in a desperate attempt to try and salvage this presidential campaign. Here she is this morning, and I'll tell you right up front, she's just lying about what President Trump actually said, as usual. Here she is. She's condemning Trump. She's saying that Trump's just going to do whatever he wants to women, quote, whether they like it or not. Take a listen.
We'll comment on the former President Donald Trump's remark about women and whether they like it or not. And listen, it actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority.
So he's attacking Trump as a sexist. She's attacking Trump as a sexist, saying that he wants to do things to women, quote, whether they like it or not. All right, so what was the actual clip? This is like every stupid left-wing invented scandal. What was the actual thing that President Trump said? What did he say? Listen to this.
I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them from migrants coming in. I'm going to protect them from foreign countries that want to hit us with missiles and lots of other things.
I'm going to protect women from migrant crime. I'm going to make sure we don't have wars. It's a joke whether they like it or not. Of course, everyone likes that outcome. It's preposterous. So Kamala Harris turning that into some sort of sexist attack. This is so stupid. It's unbelievable. But that's all they've got. If she had a good attack line, she would quote Trump. She would actually quote what he said, but she's not. She's instead distorting it beyond recognition and then attacking the thing she distorted, as usual. So that's what's going on there. And she's doing it on the stump now. She's once again lying to the people who are attending rallies. She just did it a few moments ago. She's going to keep doing it. There is desperation in the air, and it's called the Kamala Harris campaign. And the reasons for this are pretty abundantly clear. We've got an Echelon survey today, Echelon Insights, a good poll, finding that Donald Trump is up pretty dramatically in Pennsylvania. We'll see if it's an outlier, of course. The election will tell us everything, but it says that he's up by 6 points in Pennsylvania. Although every other survey, for the most part, up, including in the last 24 hours, Quinnipiac shows that it is a tight race there. Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris by 1 point among likely voters in Pennsylvania, but that's the right trend. All of the swing states have been trending in Trump's direction these last few weeks. That also brings us to Michigan, where we find a dead heat there. Echelon Insights also finding a dead heat there. The Washington Post finding that between Trump and Harris, among registered voters, 47% back Trump, 45% back Harris. That's a 2-point advantage among registered voters. Likely voters flipped the other way, although not by much. 47% to Harris, 46% to Trump. Just a 1-point difference there, with Harris having the edge. In other words, that's a nail-biter in Michigan. And then in Wisconsin, the recent surveys that have all come out, 49-49, 49-49, 40. In fact, in one survey, Atlas Intel, among likely voters, Trump up 48-49. So that's also a very tight race. But remember, this is the blue wall we're talking about. Kamala can't lose any of them. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. She can't lose any of them. And President Trump is threatening in all of them. J.D. Vance went on with Joe Rogan today. They had a big conversation. Well, actually, no, they did the interview yesterday. This would have been yesterday morning that they chatted. And I think that would have been ahead of the garbage truck event that President Trump had in Wisconsin. So that likely wasn't included in their conversation. But J.D. Vance and Joe Rogan were talking. I was able to listen to some of it today, and some of the highlights are coming out. And something stood out to me. A lot of things stood out to me. Here's one. J.D. Vance was talking about his initial reaction to the July 13th assassination attempt on President Trump. And you'll remember, J.D. was not the running mate yet when this had occurred. But he was paying attention. He was watching as all of this went down. And he immediately thought about, how do I protect my own family?
You know, the initial reaction is I actually thought they had killed him, because when you first see the video, he grabs his ear and then he goes down. And I'm like, oh, my God, they just killed him. And I was first I was so pissed. But then I go into like fight or flight mode with my kids. I'm like, all right, kids, we were at a mini golf place in Cincinnati, Ohio. I grab my kids up, throw them in the car, go home and load all my guns, and basically stand like a sentry at our front door. Oh, that was sort of my reaction to it.
Now, there's already lefties online today reacting to that clip saying they don't believe him. That didn't happen. Why would that happen? Why would you do that? What do you mean, why would you do that? If you're a high-profile American Republican politician, if you're on the short list of people who's going to potentially become the next running mate for President Trump, if you love your family, wouldn't one of the considerations be, I have to quickly assess whether or not they're at any risk? And you have no idea what's happening in that moment. All you saw was President Trump was shot in the head. President Trump was shot in the head, and he went home. He took his kids home, whisked them home, loaded his guns, and stood guard in his own house. That seems reasonable to me, actually. So that's J.D. Vance. That's quite obviously an authentic story that he was telling Joe Rogan yesterday. He also talked about the rigging of the 2020 election. He was asked about this. Rogan's interested in this topic. He asked President Trump about it, too. And J.D. Vance offered an excellent explanation of some of the most obvious ways that everyone can agree, if they were sober and not guided by their deranged politics, that, yes, there were obvious elements in that election that were rigged.
This is where I always get pissed about the media conversation around what happened in 2020. Is what they'll do is they'll sort of find the craziest conspiracy theory about what happened in 2020. They'll debunk it and say, oh, look, this shows that nothing bad happened in 2020. There's a nonpartisan organization that actually looked at what would have happened to Americans' votes if they had just known the truth about the fact that Joe Biden fundamentally had traded his political influence for money. Like, that's what it was. It's an old-fashioned American corruption story. I will give you access to powerful people in exchange for money, right? That was the true scandal of the Hunter Biden laptop. Again, it wasn't Hunter Biden doing cocaine with a stripper.
That was the fun part.
You can say that. I have an election to win. So that was the real scandal.
It was the corruption.
It was the corruption. And this
evidence of the corruption.
And direct evidence of the corruption. And a nonpartisan organization said that knowledge, which was suppressed by the entire American media and big tech scene, that would have changed millions upon millions of votes. And we know that the number in 4 swing states was 88,000 votes that were the difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden winning the 2020 election. So set to the side all of the other arguments about fraud and all the other rule changes that happened in the midst of COVID. We know that big tech colluded with our own sort of, I would say colluded. The one thing I'll say about Zuckerberg is, and I don't know him super well. I've never had a problem with him, but I do wonder if it's a convenient excuse. I don't doubt that the FBI said, hey, this is Russian disinformation, but these companies still have to take some agency over this too, right? So I think it was both the corruption of the FBI and the intelligence services, but also the big technology companies themselves. Both of them are at blame. Yeah. And I think fundamentally, if they had not done what they did, Donald Trump would have won another term as president of the United States. You're never going to be able to convince me that if millions upon millions of swing voters knew the evidence of Joe Biden's corruption and it was staring them in the face, that we would not have been able to pull that one out.
So he properly diagnoses all of this and points to the most obvious. You can get your hands around this element of the obvious rigging going on in the 2020 election. Everyone with 2 brain cells to rub together knows this. And it's also an expression of the left's sort of soft fascism. They use the tools of government and the capture of corporations, their combined power, in order to exert their political dominance over the rest of us. And, you know, and if we're going to break that, it's going to be broken through democracy. It's going to be broken through our constitutional republic. In other words, voters are going to push back against it. And I'll get back to the J.D. Vance clips in just a moment, but I do have a positive news update for you. Earlier this week, I told you that there were a number of conservative commentators who were being targeted by the New York Times and Media Matters, working in collaboration with one another, to try and strip them of revenue on YouTube. A New York Times reporter started hassling all of these various conservative commentators and saying, you're saying things that are misinformation, according to whom? Media Matters. I'm sorry, what? Media Matters? The left-wing hatchet organization dedicated to the preservation of Democrat power without any integrity whatsoever? What are you talking about? But the goal of that, of course, was to go to all these people, I want your comment, and then to turn around and then to pressure YouTube to strip them of funding. No more ads on their videos. No more support for them. You're helping disinformation. They tried to do this to YouTube this week. And to the great credit of all of these conservative commentators, they went public with the New York Times' so-called requests for comment and their own responses. These are people like Ben Shapiro and Mike Davis and Tucker Carlson, Benny Johnson. They all went public with this. They said, and they instantly, before the New York Times piece even went up. And so they created a fierce reaction to it. God bless them for it. Because today, the New York Times ran the piece. They reached out to YouTube, and YouTube said they're not going to demonetize any of the videos. They said none of the 286 videos that the New York Times and Media Matters wanted them to strip funding from, none of them, quote, violated their community guidelines. Quote, let's see here. They basically, they stood up for people and their right to express their opinions. That was the way that YouTube handled this. The ability, quote, here's the statement. The ability to openly debate political ideas, even those that are controversial, is an important value, especially in the midst of election season. That was Google's response today. Google, which owns YouTube. Isn't that wild? So what does that tell you? One, YouTube is sort of betting on a Trump presidency right now. YouTube is, they're at least looking at it, and they've got access to some very interesting data. They probably haven't released all of it. The search data nationwide and in the swing states. And they're at this moment, at least in this important election moment, we'll see what they do after the election, they're refusing to strip funding from conservatives under pressure from the New York Times and Media Matters. So what J.D. Vance accurately depicted in the Joe Rogan conversation is what conservatives were just able to upend by speaking out ahead of the damage. Now, does that mean that Google's not doing anything wrong? No, of course not. That's not what I said. In fact, speaking of Joe Rogan, they just got in the way, although they say it was a mistake. They say it was a mistake. It's the same kind of mistake always. They got in the way of you even seeing the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview for a time. Finally, it showed up again in their search engine. But this is why it's worth fighting, because you can win when you fight. You just have to have the battle. So, J.D. Vance, what else did he say today? Oh, he impersonated Kamala Harris. This was kind of amusing.
The only way I can describe it is she talks in circles.
Yeah.
Right? It's like...
Tim Dillon says it's like she does gypsy curses because she speaks in gypsy curses.
That's very good. But it's, we need to build an opportunity economy, because if Americans don't have opportunity, then they're not going to have the opportunity to be Americans.
Gypsy curses. That's a good line. All right. I'll get back to J.D. Vance in a moment. I do have some phone calls coming in. Mara is calling in from Rhode Island now on line 2. Mara, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, thanks so much for taking my call. I'll be quick. I just wanted to weigh in. I'm from a blue state and Rhode Island. But just as far as you were talking earlier about Kamala Harris trying to just distort what Trump was saying about protecting women, for what it's worth, from a blue state, we are more than excited to vote for Trump and be in a position where we're not going to have to worry about the violent crap going over the border. We're really looking forward to it. So I won't take up too much of your time. I know it's not the current topic,
but Mara, I want to dwell on this with you for a moment. So Kamala Harris is saying that Trump wants to do things to women, quote, whether they like it or not. And what Trump actually said was, whether they like it or not, I'm going to get rid of all the migrant crime. I'm going to make the country safe. This is like saying, whether you like it or not, I'm going to make the country really great. And it's obvious, like, there's nobody who doesn't like making the country great, unless you're Kamala Harris.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we're all here for it. I know we're in the minority in my state, but for what it's worth, there are a lot of us out here in these blue states, women especially, that pay attention. We listen for ourselves. We do our own homework and our own research. And I appreciate you calling it out. So I just wanted to weigh in and say that. So thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Mara, thank you very much from beautiful, tiny Rhode Island. Really appreciate that call. There's Mara. Hold on. I've got more J.D. Vance ahead. We'll see what else we can squeeze in. We got a lot going on. It's now 5:50. WMAL, traffic and weather. Ed Rodriguez is in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Thanks, Vince. I want to go back to I-66. Things are changing rapidly. We've got a delay right off the Beltway in Merrifield and Nutley Street in Vienna. Then a longer delay that starts right before Route 28 in Centerville and goes all the way down to the Bull Run Rest area. We've got an eastbound delay that starts inside the Beltway at Route 7 and Falls Church. That things are going to open up there right around Washington Boulevard. Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, here's the WMAL ABC 7 Storm Watch forecast.
So this is what it feels like going trick-or-treating in Florida. Our weather this evening, very mild. Temperatures in the upper 60s to lower 70s throughout the area, and it's going to be dry, a little breezy with a southwesterly wind. We're partly to mostly cloudy overnight, temperature 60 to 65 degrees, and for tomorrow, your Friday, just under 80. Chance for some spotty showers until 11 a.m., then turning partly sunny. I'm 7 News Chief Meteorologist Veronica Johnson in the First Alert Weather Center.
Right now, in the nation's capital, 77 degrees, 552 WMAL. All right. Well, let me tell you, the Reynolds and Power Owned team, they're amazing. They're amazing because they stand out in the entire real estate industry. Because last year, for instance, over 49% of homes listed didn't actually sell with other real estate agents who took the initial listing. But the good news is that the Reynolds and Power Home team, Sarah and Debbie, my dear friends, they've got a proven track record in the DMV, and they've helped hundreds of families buy and sell their homes. Here's just one of many examples. Tony had been working with a realtor trying to sell his home for 99 days with no luck. During this time, he sadly lost out on a new construction dream home because he was stuck selling his current one. Then he reached out to Sarah and Debbie from the Reynolds and Power Home team, and they immediately got to work building Tony a custom strategy highlighting his home's unique features, and they launched proactive marketing plans to reach prospective buyers, and it was a quick result. Just 2 days now, Tony received a cash offer, and his home was sold at full price. So if you're tired of waiting for your home to sell, just give my friends Sarah and Debbie a call. Visit DebbieHasTheBuyers.com or call them at 844-344-SOLD.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. With Ramp, you get full visibility into your company's spending and control who spends what with each vendor. Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts instantly to save your team valuable time. Ramp automates data entry and routine tasks with automated approvals, expense categorization and bill payments, time-consuming tasks. Which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. Get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/radio. Ramp.com/radio. RAMP.com/radio.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
The richest diamond mines in the world are in Africa. That's the source for great diamonds, and it's where the Mervis family has explored for generations. In Botswana, ancient volcanoes still hold the world's finest diamonds. At Jwaneng Diamond Mine, these miracles of nature are extracted in a gigantic mining operation. Massive trucks feverishly carry tons of diamond-bearing kimberlite rock to the crushing plant. I'm always in total awe when I inspect the vast activity at the mine. For Mervis Diamond Importers, I'm Ronnie Mervis. We go to the ends of the globe to bring you the world's finest diamonds. We proudly display more diamonds in Washington than anyone. By eliminating the middlemen, Mervis offers value that others cannot. Mervis means diamonds. For your diamond and the greatest collection of Tacori and Verragio designer rings, meet Mervis Diamond Importers. Financing is available. Appointments are preferred. To learn more, call 1-800-HER-LOVE or visit mervisdiamond.com. Again, that's 1-800-HER-LOVE or go to mervisdiamond.com.
Are your wiper blades streaking, skipping, or squeaking? Purchase new wiper blades from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and they'll install them for free. See better and drive safer with O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stop by today or learn more at O'ReillyAuto.com.
Tomorrow on the Chris Plant Show, you want to see something really scary this Halloween? Watch CNN's coverage of Kamala Harris's campaign, 9 a.m. on WMAL.
And well, the other thing is, like, if you were encouraging them, and some parents, it's just I'm just going to say it, even though it sounds gross, they want their kid to be a part of the LGBTQ thing because it looks like a flag of virtue that they can post in their front lawn. Oh, look, we have a queer child. Like, oh, you're amazing. There's a weird thing about it with some of these nutty parents where you could imagine them there has to be some reason why this enormous percentage of Hollywood kids are trans. Like, how many celebrities have trans kids? It's new. It's not a thing that was going on just a few. It was rare in the past.
It becomes a social signifier for a lot of parents, and we have to be honest about that fact. And if you look at where the gender craziness is the most common, it's most common among upper middle class to lower middle class white progressives.
100%.
Now, you could believe, okay, that there's just like something genetic going on in the mind of a wealthy white progressive, or you could believe that this is a cultural trend that we should be questioning a lot more than we are right now. And unfortunately, I mean, here's one thing that I really worry about is, okay, think about the incentives. People are very good at rationalizing things. If you are a, middle class or upper middle class white parent, and the only thing that you care about is whether your child goes into Harvard or Yale, like, obviously that pathway has become a lot harder for a lot of upper middle class kids. But the one way that those people can participate in the DEI bureaucracy in this country is to be trans.
J.D. Vance, he's a smart guy. By the way, what a great pick for Donald Trump. What a fantastic pick. But he's right. Things have changed, haven't they? No longer, you don't just, you don't become an Eagle Scout anymore. You chop off a body part and you're on your way to Harvard. It's a great scheme the left has come up with. It's so completely insane. All right, we're under 5 days now. Under 5 days. We're barreling towards it. Please go out to vote if you haven't done it yet. Drag out every single person you know. Even find a few you don't and get them out of vote. We're almost there. Stay with us. The great one, Mark Levin, is up next here on WMAL.